Bill O'Brien is not a bad head coach. Like, you're never going to get me to say that Bill O'Brien's a bad head coach, but Bill O'Brien is a Lord Almighty, God awful GM.
Agreed.
And he deserves to get canned for that. And he deserves to have a head coaching job again in the NFL one day. Probably not next year, but he deserves to have a head coaching job.
He should be nowhere near that GM room, though. He should be nowhere near that draft board at all.
Nowhere near it. So I think at the end of the day, you reap what you sow. If you're the Texans, you gave him too much power and it shot you in the foot. It's not going to work in the NFL. You got to be flexible. You got to think on your feet, and you got to be willing to move with the talent that you have.